Chase Hunter is officially coming back. Huge news for Clemson basketball.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. My name is John Bivens. I'm your host. You can follow me over right here at I am John Bivens over on Twitter or X. We are a credentialed media member for Clemson University for 3 sports: baseball, basketball, and football. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and over on YouTube. And we are part of the amazing Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Here on the Locked On Clemson podcast, you're getting 3 things: all sports, all passion, all of the time. We are bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson sports. Shout out to our everydayers. We appreciate each and every one of you, but especially those that listen every single day. Hey, you're a family. You're what make us being able to happen. So we appreciate you. We appreciate all of y'all. Today is Thursday, May 30th. We're going to talk about 3 things today. 1, Chase Hunter is returning. Get excited about it. We're going to dive into next year's basketball roster. Our 13 scholarships are completely full. And we are also going to have another episode of our Turbulent Thursday, where we're talking about a hot tweet that we see over on Twitter. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app now, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And so we are excited. If you are a Clemson University fan, if you're an ACC basketball fan, if you're a college basketball fan, if you just like basketball, you should be excited. Chase Hunter is returning to Clemson basketball. That is huge news. Absolutely huge news. We are stoked about that. Chase Hunter, he's returning for a 6th season with Clemson University. Due to the COVID year, that's a possibility. He's coming in. This is his 6th year in college basketball. All 6 of them are at Clemson University. And man, this player is electric. If you are new to Clemson, if you aren't used to Chase Hunter, if you don't know what you're missing there, Chase Hunter is an electric player. He is talented. He's skillful. He makes the right read most of the time. He can score. He can pass. He can play defense. He's a great player. He's electric to watch, and he's someone that we're excited to have come back. This past year, statistically, might not have been his best year. We'll get to that in a couple minutes, but this past year, he had a great year. He started off slow, then had a baby, and once he had a baby, man, he turned it on, right? He completely turned it on, got hot, started scoring more, had a couple games where he scored a lot, he was one of the players of the tournament in the region that Clemson left from the, I believe it was the Midwest when he was a Elite 8 run. He was one of the players there. He was electric. He's a great player. He brings a lot to the table. He's a combo guard, usually plays that 1 spot, can play the 2, but he's more comfortable at the 1. So we're excited. We're excited to see there. You should be ecstatic about that, because that is huge news, huge opportunities. We're stoked about that. We're going to go through just a little bit of his stats real quick. So overall, year-by-year stats. Again, he's played 5 years so far at Clemson. In his freshman year, he played in 4 or 9 games, started 4 of those. He averaged about 19 minutes a game, so he saw some good minutes as a freshman. And overall, he scored a decent amount his freshman year. He scored about 5 points per game. Not with 19 points, you want to see more than that, but again, freshman shot 38%, 30% from the 3, averaged 1 rebound, 1.6 assists, almost a full steal, almost 2 fouls, and almost 1.5 turnovers per game. Sophomore year came in, he played in 24 games, started a lot of those, but he averaged 2.9 points. So he had a little digression there. There was some more scoring there, so that makes sense. More scoring, and then where that came on. PJ Hall's first year took some of that, but he didn't really play as a freshman a lot either. But 2.9 points that year. Shot a little bit worse from the field goal, only shot 31%. 3-point, he slacked. 3-point, he only shot 14% that year. 1.2 rebounds, 1 assist, 0.4 steals, only 1 foul, so he decreased his fouls, and less than 1 turnover, so he decreased those. Junior, he came in, he played in 33 games, averaged 6.7 points, so that point, that was the highest year he had. Boosted that field goal and 3-point percentage, went to 45% and 34%, and so overall, he stayed right around that area the rest of his career. 2.7 rebounds, almost 2 assists. And then his traditional senior year, his true senior year, that was his breakout year. He played in 31 games, 32 minutes a game, the most minutes he's got per game. Shot 41% from the field, 35% from 3, 13.8 points per game. That was his highest scoring season. 2.3 turnovers, don't like to see that. 2.2 fouls, 4.5 assists, 3 rebounds a game. Overall, had a great season. And then this past year, statistically, a little bit of a dip from his traditional senior year, but he still had an excellent year. Played in 36 games, 32 minutes per game, 42%, 31 from the 3, 85 from the free throw. So his freshman year, he shot 63% from the free throw. This past year, he shot 85. So definitely an increase. Rebounds 2.6, 3.2 assists, 0.7 steals, 1.8 fouls, 1.8 turnovers. Averaged 12.9 games. Overall, great player. He's got great stats. He's got great assists. He's got great skills. He's got a great mindset for the game. Overall, double-doubles. He's only had 1 double-double in his career. It came from a 2022-2023 season. But overall as well, his career numbers, he's put together, he shoots about 41% over his career, about 31% from the 3, 80% from the free throw, about 2.4 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 1.8 foul, 1.5 turnover, and he's averaging 9.2 points per game. Overall, he's had great numbers. He's got good numbers. We're excited about that. You should be excited about that. If you're a Clemson fan, be excited. This is huge. This is a huge moment. This past year, he put together some moments. Like we said, he started a little slow, started a little off this year. Had a good game against Alcorn, but once we started playing serious opponents, his high scoring was 15 against Alabama, and then he had a little bit of a rut when we first got in the ACC and those 3 straight losses and coming out of those, but then he really turned it on. He finished the year with a lot of games, almost in his last 10 games of the regular season. Only one of them he didn't score in double digits, and that was that loss at Notre Dame that the whole team didn't play with. Well, the rest of it was double digits. 14 Syracuse, 20 Miami, 10 NC State, 18 Georgia Tech, 16 Florida State, 15 at Pitt, 17 Syracuse, 17 Wake Forest. ACC game, we're not even going to talk about because we just wiped that from our memory. And then in the postseason this past year in the NCAA tournament, had a great tournament. 21 points against New Mexico, which was his season high. 20 points against Baylor, 18 against Arizona. Only scored 12 against Alabama, but you win and you lose some. He really struggled from a field that he only shot 45%, where the rest of them he shot 50+. But overall, he's a great player. Bringing Chase Hunter back adds a lot of experience to this team, which is what we need, because this roster, it's a big turnover. And in just a moment, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to heavily talk about what the turnover looks like, what next year's roster looks like. So we'll talk about all that and so much more in just a moment. MLB is in full swing. Very little is better than a game day at Clemson University, but MLB games are right up there with them. I love going to different ballparks, feeling the vibe, feeling the energy of the stadium. My go-to place for tickets is the Gametime app. Gametime is an authorized ticket seller for MLB games, and they are the easiest place to go for all your ticket needs, whether it's in advance or day of. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Braves are in a little slump. I know Acuna's hurt, Strider's hurt. They got a couple injuries, but you can never count them out. They're in a very similar spot to when they won the World Series, honestly. I'm a huge Padres fan. They're making a push, trying to get over 500. No matter who your team is, Gametime is the best place for tickets for all MLB teams. Some of my favorite things about Gametime, I love the fact you get 60% off when you're buying last-minute tickets. I also love the fact that almost every single seat before you buy gives a panoramic view of what your seat's going to look like. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app now. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Gametime right now. Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast. Like we said, Chase Hunter's returning. That is something to be excited about. With him returning, that finishes up our complete roster for this year. So overall this year, as it finishes up the roster, we are losing some players. Some of the players we're losing are top two scorers from last year. P.J. Hall, 18.3 points per game. He's going to the draft, projected to be early to mid-second round. Joseph Girard, the third. He's graduated. He's done. No more eligibility. 15.1 points per game. He's graduated. He's done. He's no more years left. He's gone, so we're missing them, our top two scorers. We're also missing 4 different transfers. R.J. Godfrey with a surprising transfer to Georgia. Alex Hemingway, he's just going to transfer. I think he's going to Vanderbilt to try to get some more time. Jack Clark's going to VCU. That one surprised me. He's playing for a 6th year in his 4th different team, so... Anyway, Josh Beadle, he's transferring to an in-state rival or in-conference rival with the Boston College. We pretty much had a trade with him. But overall, that's who we lost. But with that, college basketball in Division I, you get 13 scholarship players. You can have up to 15 on the roster, but you get 13 scholarships. And with Clemson or Chase Hunter coming back, we are locked in with our 13 players. So who our players are going to be this year? We've got Chase Hunter, redshirt senior, a 6-year player. He's been at Clemson all his life. Jaden Zachary, who's a transfer redshirt senior from Boston College. Dylan Hunter, who is Chase Hunter's little brother. Excited about him coming into it. Jake Heidbreeder, this is his first appearance. We haven't seen Jake play as Clemson. He transferred from Air Force last year, but he redshirted, so he didn't play at all this past season. Excited to see him come in. He's only a junior, so I have 1 more year of eligibility after this year, so we're excited to see that. And then our other 2 guards that we have are Ace Buckner and Dell Jones, which are both 4-star prospects. Freshmen coming in. We're excited to see them. Excited to see that. Our starter guards, you've got to think, is Chase Hunter at the 1, Jaden Zachary at the 2. But I could Dylan Hunter, Jake Heidbreeder are going to get plenty of playing time off the bench. They'll be definitely first 2 off the bench when it comes to our guard play. Excited about those. We're really excited about those. Overall, Chase Hunter, like we said, last year he had a great run out. He was the star of the NCAA tournament for Clemson. He's 6'4" guard or 6'4" guard. Jaden Zachary's a little bit shorter, but he's more of a stockier player at 6'2". I think Zachary's going to be able to come in and replace. Joe Girard had a great 3-point shot. Zachary is nowhere near the shooter that Joe Girard was, but he's a good scorer. We can see that when they played Clemson last year, he went off. He played really well. He shot like 40% from the 3-point. So excited to see that. Excited to see there. And like we said, Dylan Hunter, Jake Heidbreeder, they're going to be great. Them coming in, transferring. Heidbreeder shot like 15 points per game when he played at Air Force. So he's coming in there. It's going to be great. He's a taller guy. He's 6'5" guard. But he's going to come in and he's going to play really, really well. I think him having to sit on the bench all last year, Brad Brownell even said that Heidbreeder is going to be hungry. And it said he credited it because he didn't get to be on the court with his team. That's a quote from Brad Brownell, provided by John Blue. But yeah, those 2, he's going to be hungry. And then those freshmen, I think I'm excited about this. I don't think we're going to see a lot from these freshmen. I think one of them, maybe both, might redshirt just because they're not going to get a lot of playing time. We've got 4 experienced guards ahead of them. Chase Hunter, Heidbreeder, Zachary, and Dylan Hunter. They're all 4 experienced. They've all 4 seen playing time, a lot of playing time. I think those 4 are going to be our main guards. I don't think either of our freshmen is going to see a lot of playing time on the court unless they just come out and excel. If they come out and are super great, they're going to obviously get playing time, but they're not going to be rushed in, which I think is good. It's good for progression. Excited about that. From forwards, though, our forwards is Ian Shefflin, which you should know about them. Ian Shefflin's amazing. Come in. He's a breakout player last year, ACC Most Improved. Chauncey Wiggins, who's a junior. Miles Foster, he's the transfer that we're getting in. He's a redshirt senior. Dallas Thomas, who's a freshman. He's another freshman that's coming in, another 4-star prospect. Asa Thomas, who's a redshirt freshman. He came last year, but again, he redshirted just because of the experience and all that. Ian Shefflin, like we said, great player. He's dominant. He's going to be really well. I think he's going to step up. Brad Brunell, according to him, he needs to make more threes. That's what he's going to be looking for. Shefflin, hey, through the last, for the first 15 games of the season last year, he was the highest three-point percentage shooter in all the ACC. So Brad saying he needs to make threes, that's not something that's impossible. That's not something that's just not going to happen. He's going to be able to score. We've just got to see more. I'm the opposite. Brad said he wants to know that he can score in three and he can drive the ball. Driving the ball I get, but I want to see Shefflin dominating the paint. I think if we try to force Ian Shefflin to be the Nets' PJ Hall, we're going to fail because that's not who he is. They have very different playing styles. Shefflin thrives in the paint, getting the rebounds, getting the dirty plays, getting the second chance points. Let him thrive in the paint. Draw up an offense that lets him do where his work is. Yeah, he's a little undersized. He's only 6'8", but let him be in the paint. He's a power forward. Let him be a little bit outside, but don't make him be PJ Hall because he's not PJ Hall. We won't have success that way. And then Chauncey Wiggins, he's made some improvements. We made a bold pick. If you're coming from our Tiger Wire podcast, we made a prediction that Chauncey Wiggins would win an ACC Player of the Year or be in the running of it by his senior year. This offseason is going to see if that's possible. If he doesn't make the jump that he needs this offseason, he's going to prove us wrong. He's 6'11", 210 pounds. He's got a Kevin Durant body, that long, slim, long arms, very lengthy. We got to see him make the next step. I'd love to see him. Brad Brunell wants to see him averaging like 14 a game. I'd love to see that. He only averaged 5 last game, so we're really going to have to see him make progression. He's going to get more minutes. Jack Clark took a lot of his minutes, so with Jack gone, Chauncey Wiggins got to be our starting 3 coming in with Ian Shefflin the starting 4. You've got to think that's the case, but we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see what happens. He's got to get more rounded player overall. Foster coming in, Miles Foster coming in. Brad Brunell compares him to R.J. Godfrey, who left for Georgia. I think that's comparable. I would say Miles Foster probably brings him better just because of experience and getting heavy time. I could see him pushing for Ian Shefflin a spot. Ian Shefflin's going to start, but I think he's going to be our 6th man coming off the bench. Excited to see him. But then we have Dallas Thomas, who's a freshman. He's the opposite. Our 2 freshman guards aren't going to see a lot of play. I think our forward spot, if Dallas Thomas comes out and comes in to being like a true scorer when it comes to his play, when it comes to his abilities, and he can score a lot from that forward spot, he'll see a lot of minutes. If Chauncey Wiggins doesn't progress how he needs, Dallas Thomas could be in the starting lineup before the end of the year. So excited to see how that moves. And then our centers. Our centers is our weak spot. In my opinion, our centers is the spot that Clemson's got to grow the most. They've got Victor Locken, transfer from Cincinnati, Christian Reeves, transfer from Duke. Both of these players are risky. Both of these players are very, very risky, and it's because of injuries. Locken has fought injuries his whole career. Yeah, he's a redshirt senior, and when he plays, he's good. The past 2 seasons, he's averaged almost 11 points, 7 rebounds almost. He's huge. He's 6'11", 240 pounds. He's big. But we got to see him be able to play, move around. We got to see him be healthy, so that's a risk. Christian Reeves is also a risk. He's 7'1". He's leaner, but he also hasn't played any. He's missed almost all of his games. He's only been available for 16 games in his first 2 years. We've got to see him be healthy. If he comes in as just continued injury, it's a waste of a spot. So you've got to think they did the physicals, they did the interviews where they feel good about before offering that transfer spot. But that's our roster. Locken's going to get the center, so our projected starting lineup is going to be Chase Hunter and then Jaden Zachary, Chauncey Wiggins, Ian Shefflin, and Victor Locken. Good lineup, very different from last year, and that's the key. The key is this team, Brad Brunell, he's a good coach. He's proved he is. If he wants to be consistent, if he wants to get all the hate off of his back and make the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, he can't treat this team as just last year's team part 2. He can't come in and expect a player to fill P.J. Hall's role because P.J. Hall was one of a kind for his role. He's got to develop a new scheme that doesn't rely on a P.J. Hall caliber player because we don't have that anymore. He's got to treat this team as a team of its own. I'd love to see more half-court play, more traditional post play rather than the high-low that he plays all the time. Let's see some traditional post play, maybe a little triangle offense, maybe, I don't know, but we got to see some of that, more off-ball screens, off-ball movement, low post, some action down there. We've got to see some more traditional post play because that's the players that we have. So overall, overall exciting. We should be excited about this team. We should be excited about everything going on. But at the end of the day, they got this team's going to be good, but it's only as good as Brad can get them there. If Brad can't get them too far, if Brad can't get them into it completely, we're never going to be able to see it. We're never going to be able to experience what it is. So that's where that's where our thoughts are. We're excited. Like we said, we are very excited for what's going to happen. We're excited for that basketball team next year. We think there's definitely room for success, definitely the room to be competitive, to make the NCAA tournament. But we'll have to see as the offseason continues to progress. But for now, the roster is set. When we come back, we're going to dive into our weekly segment of Turbulent Thursdays as we close out the episode. We will see you soon. Welcome back. We are here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Every Thursday, we close out the episode with a Turbulent Thursday. What that is, our Turbulent Thursday, it is where we go through and we talk about a hot take. We talk about a hot take that's happening, either a hot take that someone put on Twitter, a hot take that someone put out on social media about Clemson or anything. We take some hot takes and we just talk about it. So the hot take we want to talk about today is first overall, we've seen a lot of people talking trash about Chase Hunter. There's been so many people on Twitter that have said that Chase Hunter isn't as important. Chase Hunter isn't as valuable. Him coming back isn't a big addition. It actually hurts us. I disagree. Chase Hunter, I think he has a huge spot. His experience coming in is, if people are saying that he's not helpful, they don't know basketball. They're just talking to talk. So that's a hot take. And it's obvious, it's probably one that we're not even going to spend a lot of time talking about. Because if you know anything about basketball, anything about college basketball, Clemson especially, you know Chase Hunter is a huge addition. Him coming back is massive. Next, we want to talk about another. We're going to switch sports for this last hot take. And it is a tweet that we found over on Twitter. And let me tell you, it is something. It is definitely a hot take for sure. There is no doubt about it. But with it, what it is it's a tweet that we saw regarding football. And the tweet, it's interesting. It was posted by College Sports Only. You can find them at College Sports O. They posted it about 8 o'clock last night on Wednesday. But they put this tweet out there, and it's the college football's most iconic teams. Most iconic teams in all of college football. And I'm just gonna put it up. I'm gonna let you see it. If you're video, you can look at this tweet. If you're not video, I will read it off for the audio audience. So let's just look at this tweet together, shall we? It is. I'm gonna warn you. It's ridiculous. So here's the tweet. It is. I'm gonna put it up right now. So they have on their roster. They have their college football's most iconic teams. Their number one spot is 2019 LSU, 2001 Miami, 2008 Florida, 17 Miami, 06 Boise State, 14 Ohio State, 13 FSU, 07 App State, 13 Auburn, 23 Michigan, 17 Oklahoma, 10 Oregon, 07 Kansas, 23 Colorado, 17 UCF, 12 Notre Dame, 07 Hawaii, 22 TCU, 16 Penn State, 2020 Coastal. I'm going to let that sit. Video people, go ahead and look at that. Dive in for a little bit. Just take it in. Take in the idiocy. Take it in, right? Experience it. Now let's talk about it. So what is this? What's this tweet? What's the problem with it? The problem is this. There's no Clemson team on there. How are you going to leave off the perfect record 15-0 champions for Clemson? That Deshaun Watson team in 2016 that dominated in Alabama. 2018, where they completely dominated Alabama to win the championship. Even later on, 2020, when we had a good run, when we lost to LSU. What is happening? What are you doing? Where is happening? How is that left off? I have no idea who made this. College Sports Only, they put out that it was quite possibly the worst list of all time. I agree. You're telling me that the 2020 Coastal Carolina football team was more iconic than any of the Clemson football teams in history? What? Are you serious? You're telling me that the 07 Kansas team, which was a great team, is more iconic than than any of the college football Clemson football teams? 23 Michigan, they were a great team. They were very talented. How were they iconic? They were boring to watch, right? J.J. McCarthy was great. I'm not taking anything away from them. But more iconic? Really? 07 Hawaii, good run, right? It was an exciting season. More? No way. There's no way Clemson should at least, that 28 team with all the talent they had on and off defense and offense, the talent they had surrounding could easily be a top 3 team, top 4, top 5 team. Easily. There's no way they should be left on this list. And that is why this tweet, I'm going to put it up one more time for you to see it. This tweet right here is this week's episode, is this week's moment of our turbulent take on Thursday. Just ridiculous. Hard to watch, hard to look at. But yeah, that is going to our Turbulent Thursday take. And with that being said, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Next week, we're going to continuing on through this week, we're going to dive into more football, dive into more sports all around Clemson. It's going to be exciting. Make sure you join us for tomorrow's Friday episode as we wrap up this week. Hey, let us know your thoughts on today's topic. Reach out to us on Twitter at I am John Bivens. Email me, thetigerwire@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your feedback. Drop a comment over on YouTube. Let us know your thoughts on what we talked about today on Chase Hunter and some of these hot takes. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast wherever you get your podcast at, or if you're watching over on YouTube, hit us with a follow over on YouTube. That way, every single day, we can be your first listen here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. We can't wait to see you tomorrow in the next episode, but until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring, and as always, go Tigers.